I really encourage people to invest their marketing time into a systematically nurturing and building a network of really rich relationships, and then put the authority content on top at first with the intention of using it simply to help people that you actually meet or that are referred to you go down your sales pipeline faster.
You're listening to the 7-Figure Leap podcast. We're here to leverage rich relationships and smart strategies to take your business to the next level. Here's your host, Dustin Riekman.
Welcome back to the 7-Figure Leap podcast. I'm really excited today. We have the perfect guest for all of you listening. And we're going to be tackling one of my favorite topics, which is how do you build a freedom-first, highly profitable business? And I'm joined by Pia Silva. Pia has a new book coming out called Scale Solo. And so that kind of gives you an indication of what we're going to be talking about today. And I met Pia through an amazing group that Selena Sue has put together called the Rich Relationships Club. And when I found out about her book, I'm like, wow, this is like Selena's book is one. I'm like, man, I should have wrote this book. I love rich relationships and this idea of scaling a solo business and scaling with a small team in a way that's highly profitable and is based on what you really want out of your lifestyle is one of my passions. And so we have a bona fide expert on that topic here today. So Pia, thanks so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure, Dustin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you host a podcast, the No BS Agency podcast. And with this book, you're really expanding your impact into all forms of expert-based solo and small team businesses. So I think one way to kick us off here is to talk about how you decided this is what's right for you. And I know there's this wake-up moment that you talked about in your book when you realized that sort of the traditional model, especially for agencies, is broken. So you want to tell us sort of what's inspired you to do this for yourself and start teaching other people about this model?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you a quick background. I started my agency with my husband, Steve, in 2011.
Oh, nice.
And at that time, he's an artist, but also a graphic designer. And he was doing freelance work and I was gigging also. And basically at a certain point, I said, you know what? You're not great at managing the clients or like the money and all that, but you're incredibly talented. So why don't I figure that part out? And I tell that because I didn't actually know anything about design or branding or anything. I just was like, I'll figure this part out. And this way we can work together. And that's how we started. And over the next 3 years, I networked my face off and I learned the business by doing it and by meeting other people running similar businesses. So I copied a lot of what they were doing. The way that I pitched, the way that I, ran my projects, my pitch decks, everything was informed by everyone else that I met. And 3 years into our business, almost to the day, we had 2 employees. We had this studio I'm in right now. We had generated $250,000 that last 12 months, and we were in $40,000 of debt.
Oh,
and
boy.
at that time, $40,000 was significant because we had no more access to credit and we had no cash. So we were in such dire straits. We were forced to let our employees go, which at the time felt like a huge failure on my part. Like I just felt like, oh, we have to close our business now. And luckily, my very creative thinking husband was like, oh, we don't have to close our business. Like we just probably have to do this differently because we have sold $250,000 worth. It's not like we don't have happy clients. It's not like we're not good at this. And at that moment, I'm looking at my options. And we had this offer that we had been secretly selling to people on the DL called a $3,000 one-day brand up. And it was something that we made because my business coach challenged me to do it because most people I spoke to didn't have $30,000 and that's what we were trying to pitch. So he said, what could you do for $3,000? And I said, well, we could work with someone for a day. And so we had been doing that secretly. So at this pivotal moment, I looked at the $3,000 one day and I compared it to the $30,000 projects I was chasing. And I was like, oh, light bulb moment. Like, oh my God, this is way better. Like this is so much more profitable. And, when I looked at the numbers, I thought, well, if I added it all together to deliver on a $30,000 project, over 6-8 months, like we're talking at least 30 days of work. If I did $33,000 one days, I'd make $90,000. I mean, that is 3 times as profitable. And as soon as I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. We completely changed everything overnight and we did $500,000 in the next year, just the 2 of us without any employees. And that was really where it all that's how it happened.
That's it. That's the inflection point. Well, I love that. So
Hmm.
a productized service, and we'll talk more about sort of the math and the dynamics behind this.
Yeah.
But I think what that speaks to is it's not just about the top line value of a project or a client. It's like, what's the delivery of that, especially in a service based business like an agency? It's it's two equally important sides of the equation, right? So it's not just top line revenue, it's profit. And so, yeah, it leads me to like one of your key concepts from the book, this idea of a freedom number. And
Hmm.
so I'd love to hear your take and educate our listeners on like what is a freedom number and why is that so vital and why is it different, like you were just saying, from like a revenue number, which is what most people fixate on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, continuing with this story, we generated $500,000, but that was us working all the time because we were take every client that came to us. We were sticking, if I didn't have space, I'd be like, we can get you in on Saturday. Cause I was so excited that people were buying all of a sudden. It was so like easy to make money. So about like towards the end of that year, I go, this is also not what we signed up for. Like, okay, we're making tons of money, but I also need space and time. Like that was
Mhm.
part of this. So that's when I sat down and I went, okay, what do we really need? And I did the math and I wasn't skimping. I just said like, what would be a nice amount of money for personally for us to live our lives? Like, what does it cost for us to live? We live in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
It's not cheap here. And then I said, how much does it cost to run our business? And then this was the year I really understood taxes. So I said,
Yeah. Yeah.
how much do I also need to plan for taxes? Because previous years I didn't think about taxes and that was a rude awakening. So I added it all up. And at the time I realized we need about $240,000 a year to
Okay.
cover all of this. And then I said, okay, well, right now we're selling these 1-day intensives for $3,000. But if we could get to a place where we were selling $10,000 one days
Mm.
and we did 2 of those a month, and in our process that we've developed since then, like even right now we sell two-day intensives for $40,000.
Wow.
We're not doing all of the work on those 2 days. We're doing the work ahead of time, right? So it's
Sure.
more like a 5 or 6 day project. At the time I thought, well, how can I get the price up to $10,000? I'll probably have to make it more valuable. So it'll be a couple extra days. But if we can sell 2 $10,000 1-day intensives and spend no more than 2 weeks a month on it, then we'll generate the 20K we need and we'll have 2 weeks available to do all the biz dev, all the authority building, all the networking, and have time for ourselves.
Mm.
And so that's really when the freedom number came about, because it made me realize I don't need to feel, because at the time I actually did feel scarcity, even though I was making so much money, because I was just making cash and I felt like I had to grab it. So
Mm.
this gave me a plan where I could feel good about just making the money I needed and not just always trying to get more. And that was really the beginning of this whole philosophy.
I love it. So and I don't know if there are percentages and proportions and things that people are thinking about their own freedom number, but what I heard there is a conclusion, at least, you know, at that point in your business, sounds like a goal was like half time
Yeah.
fulfillment, half time not fulfillment. So that's business development, be able to spend time with your husband that's not working and, dealing with the other aspects of business that aren't client facing. Is that, you think 50-50? Is that a good guideline?
Yeah. So I turned this into something I call the 50-25-25
Oh,
rule.
there you go. All
And it makes it here. Yes, you're quick. So basically it's like, and this is what I do with all of my clients. I just say, find your freedom number. What's that revenue number? That includes everything.
That's your
And
personal, your
your
business
personal business and
expenses, and your
taxes.
taxes. We don't
Yep.
want to miss the taxes,
You
which
don't
could
want to
be,
miss the taxes. Yeah, it could be
significant.
significant. Know what that top line number is. And then the formula states that you must make all of that in 50% of your working hours or less. Now, I have some parameters for this. I use a 48-week year so that I'm the kind of person, like, I love stuffing away a 20 in a pocket when when you put them away for the spring. Like I like to be conservative because I always end up on top that way. So I say
Yes.
12 months a year, 4 weeks a month, 2 weeks each month is the max that you want to spend delivering for paid clients to generate that revenue. And then there's 25%. And one of those is the minimum amount you need to spend on biz dev. So biz dev is something that a lot of solopreneurs especially kind of do when they have time. or they do it kind of in the cracks. And
Mhm.
client work always takes precedent because a client is paying. So that's really important. And I say you are your most important client. So it is very important that you put aside at least 25% of your time to do all of the, business development, the marketing, the sales, all the stuff that, marketing and sales is the lifeblood of your business. So you
Absolutely,
have
yeah.
to really protect that. And then the other 25%, I call it your freedom flex time. Now, this is partially because we didn't go into business to work all the time. So I want you to build a business with the intention of having a lot of extra time for yourself, but also that is time that you can invest in travel. And, Steve and I have gone away for months at a time using this, or in seasons where you want to go faster, you can invest it back into your business. So
Mhm.
I wrote my first book in 3 months without working with any clients because I was reinvesting some of that 25% into the next level of my authority and business. But I have found over the last 12 years that I've been teaching this model, that this model, this formula works it's so simple, but it
Yeah.
works so nicely for anybody selling their expertise as that benchmark to figure out how you should price yourself. And when you put yourself through this formula, you may find, oh, my prices are very different from what it's saying. And that's okay. It usually is. But now we have a goal. We have clarity around what we're going for. When I realized $10,000 less than a week, just 2 of those, I got there in 6 months because
Mhm.
I had so much clarity around what the numbers needed to look like. And then it was just, I think of it as because I'm in New York, parallel parking into a spot, I'm just a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay, we got it.
I love that. Yeah, it's a very simple but elegant way to look at things. So is the way that we unpacked it the way you would encourage a listener to unpack it? Like start with the money part and then look at the time part and then look at how those match or don't match so that, because based on whatever your current model is, there's a certain fulfillment per client, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
X number of clients needed to get to the freedom number, right? And then I guess that is where the sort of rubber meets the road, where adjustment. So I guess this gets sort of to the next thing I was going to ask you about is this two
Yeah.
levers. You basically have the revenue from the clients, and I think something we often overlook is the specific fulfillment time per
Mm-hmm.
client to do that. So yeah, maybe it's just a recap of the process or the math, or if you want to bring the two levers in, just
Yeah.
thinking about how to do
How do
this
we do
on
this?
a one page sitting here as I'm
Yep.
listening to this podcast. Hey, I know, I want to make, whatever that number is, 400,000 a year to support the team member I have and the lifestyle I want. And then I know how I do services currently. Is it typically the adjustment in the pricing per client? Is that the big lever here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're reminding me. So remind me at the end. I actually have an easy to fill in little calculator that will
Oh,
help you figure this out that I can give you
perfect. All right.
guys. But so basically, we figure out that price point and then we plug it in with your delivery time. You're exactly right. And it's going to give you those prices. And like I said, oftentimes people will be far from the price that they require in order to hit their revenue goal within the 50-25-25 rule, which is
Mhm.
to be expected because you wouldn't be doing the exercise if
I was
you
gonna
were
say,
already hitting it
otherwise
because
you'd
you
already be
wouldn't have
doing it.
a
If
problem.
your
Yeah,
pricing and timing was perfectly matched, you'd either be
would not
making
be
way too
here.
much money and not have enough time. Oh yeah, I got
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. So once we do that, that's fine. Like I said, once you have a goal, we can go towards it very clearly. And there are 2 ways to go towards it. There's 2 levers. So lever number 1 is to increase the real and perceived value of what you have to offer. And lever number 2 is to decrease the delivery time. Those are really the only 2 things that you can do to get towards that number. And you can do one or the other, but ideally you're doing both. And I think of it a little like when you're you ever made IKEA furniture
Mhm.
and they say don't tighten all the screws at once. You got to tighten over here, tighten over. That's really what this process is. You can continually be tightening each of the bolts, increasing the value, perceived and real value a little bit here. You can decrease the delivery time a little bit, then you can increase the value more. And it's just that process that's going to get you from wherever you are to that freedom number. And I believe anyone can get to any number. It's just a matter of how long it takes. It's
Yeah.
not a matter of if, it's just when. And so I have very specific ways that I teach to do those 2 levers. The first one is increasing the real and perceived value. There's a lot of things you can do, but one clear step that I really recommend in the expert-based business area is to sell the first step with something I call the lead product. So I find that when we write free proposals, it just starts the whole dynamic off on the wrong foot. And I teach how to sell this specific process called the lead product, where you have kind of a no-brainer price as the next step. And then you do a deep dive interview with the client. You help them uncover all the things that they probably didn't even realize they needed help with, or get more clarity, or both. And then you write and deliver a brief that outlines all of their opportunities and their plan to get them from where they are to where they want to go. And that in and of itself is a valuable product. And that's how I pitch it too. It's like people do this with me without without even planning to do the other thing. But at the end, after you read this proposal of what you should do, your plan, and you're so excited and you're seeing the vision and you're getting goosebumps at the very end, I go, oh, by the way, I can just take care of that for you in 2 days for $40,000. And you would be amazed at how often, like in our community, our students are often saying, wow, when they came to me, they said their budget was X. And then after the LP, they bought a package that is literally 2X, and they didn't even mention the old budget because their whole dynamic has shifted because they've increased the real and perceived value of what they're offering now that is so different from the perceived value before you've engaged with someone. Yep. So that's an example of how we pull that first lever. And then the second lever, we intensify your process. So I've intensified what used to be 6-8 month projects down to 2 days. You don't have to be as intense as I am. I know I'm the most intense, but any ways that we can shrink the timeline, get rid of all the BS that's really not adding to the value of the delivery itself, like the admin stuff, the back and forth, the chasing, the feedback, the revisions, like we can cut out so much of that. And so as you continue to cut down on your process, maybe it's 20%, 40%. I've had people shrink them from months to a couple of days. That's also where the profitability increases. And I like to tell people that because to your point earlier, I think there's so much focus on the revenue and increasing the prices. But what I find is that when I do this analysis of everybody's offers, usually their highest price offer is their least profitable because when people increase prices, they add so much bulk to like justify the price and it ends up being unprofitable. I mean, often I will look at people's offers and say, you are better off just not doing that one. You are losing money on that one because these other smaller offers are so profitable. You should just be spending that time finding more people to buy this. So that's a very high level summary of the two ways that we can get to that goal, revenue and price.
That's beautiful. So the lead product sounds like it's getting paid for strategy. So it's like you're getting paid for the diagnostic, for setting a vision, for showing a roadmap of what's possible, which then, like you said, makes the client not only excited to pay for that lead product, but opens them up to really increasing their budget. And because you've given them that quick win, they really they have the belief in you. You've sat in a sort of a seat of prescription of like, I know what you need and here it is. So then they can kind of have their freedom to go deeper than they maybe anticipated they would want to go before they had that first transaction. I love that. So any just quick examples of lead products that you've seen that work really well? Like say for, obviously you have some great ones for agencies and that's a lot of your background, but for coaches or consultants, other people listening that are like, man, what would be a good lead product for me? And like, is there a price range that qualifies something as a lead product?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually define the lead product method as this very specific method. So it's actually the same for everybody.
Okay.
It is a deep dive interview with a brief at the end, a written brief. And that brief, I have a very specific way that I teach that it should be written, which has a lot to do with the psychology of getting people on board with ideas, leading with what are the goals, being super clear about how each recommendation is connected to the goals, being very specific about the recommendations. When people first start doing this, there's a lot of, I call it like first level advice. Like you really need a cohesive brand. It's like, that's not a recommendation. That's a blog post, right? So how do you really connect with the client's actual business and give really valuable advice? Because really, when you do this well, I mean, so often we hear about clients like crying through this because they just feel so seen.
I was going to say,
they feel
for the first time,
so
someone
clear.
it's them,
listened.
and you've given them words, and then you've painted a
Yes.
picture of an outcome that's possible for them that maybe they couldn't even describe without your help, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I work with people who are excellent at what they do. I mean, I
Yeah.
attract people who are, perfectionist excellence types. So I always tell them, you have all the tools to do that. Like, because when I teach it, I kind of push people off the cliff. I'm like, no, no, go sell this. You don't even need to know what it is. I promise you can do it because you're bringing your strategic thinking to this. I'm giving you the framework and the blueprint of how to run it so it's most effective, how to lead that interview so that at the end of it, you said almost nothing and their minds are blown. And they're like,
Mhm.
wow, I feel so clear. And you're like, I didn't even say anything, but you asked really good questions. Anybody who's really excellent, and I know you know what I'm talking about, at what they do is going to be great at helping get that information out of someone. And that's the kind of clarity that they will experience, and you won't have to explain why your offer is valuable because they will have experienced that value. And
Yeah.
that just cannot be replaced by a free proposal, which is just not going to get the same level of credibility. Or even like, listen, I'm in branding. I believe in the power of marketing and messaging and all of that. But no matter how good your copy is on your website, you can't possibly explain the kind of transformative clarity that someone will get when they actually experience it. So that's
Yeah.
really what we're working with.
Yep. I love that. So we're sort of worked backwards from your business. What are your goals? How much time do you want to spend in fulfillment? What's the pricing necessary and fulfillment time to deliver that? And a lead product is a big part of that. And then
Mhm.
intensifying the delivery is the other big lever. So if we think about before that first interaction, before you offer them the lead product, let's talk a little bit about marketing. I know you have a
Yeah.
passion for marketing, and so do I. So you're a very systematic thinker, and there's a process behind everything. So if you think of like no BS marketing, like how do you think about the marketing activities that should fit within these time constraints that will allow people to find these clients who are receptive to the lead product and then ultimately the intensely delivered service on the other side of that? So yeah, let's just talk a little bit about your marketing philosophy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that marketing makes sense depending on where you are in business.
Yeah.
There's different kinds of marketing you should do. I think a big mistake, not that you asked, but I'm gonna say it anyway. A big
Yeah.
mistake that people make is jumping into authority content marketing
Hmm.
before they've got their legs under them, right? Before they've got their foundation. Not only because when you try, and I've watched people do this, struggle with this, not only when you're trying to write authoritative marketing copy, but you don't have like super clarity around your offer and your process and who you work with, like you haven't been doing it long enough, your authority content's not going to be very authoritative, right? It's going to be
Hmm.
kind of faking it. You're probably going to be relying on AI a lot for that. And we can tell. And also, that takes forever to actually get started. Again, as somebody, you have a podcast, you have a lot of authority content. I also do. It took a while for it to actually generate cold leads and turn them into clients. And even now, so many of the people that are nurtured by my authority content are people that met me through other people or that
Yes.
I've met. So, what I really recommend is building a referral marketing machine first
Yep.
and getting that to, because you can build. I mean, I didn't have any online, I had no social media when I did the $500,000. That was purely from my network. So, you can build a very successful business just with rich relationships as we
Yes. Absolutely.
and we continue to have these successful businesses and we're nurturing rich relationships because it's always going to be about that. So I really encourage people to invest their marketing time into a systematically nurturing and building a network of really rich relationships, and then put the authority content on top at first with the intention of using it simply to help people that you actually meet or that are referred to you go down your sales pipeline faster. And yes, eventually that authority content may also bring in cold leads, but I think that's the disconnect. People think, oh, if I make this authority content, then cold people are going to find me. And I just think, that may happen once in a while, but that's really not how a reliable way to build an expert-based business.
Yes.
And by the way, inside our club, Rich Relationships Club, how often, I mean, one of the best things about it is that when you need to hire someone, you can go in and say, hey, I'm looking for this and get 10 referrals. That's how the high-end premium clients that you're trying to get hired by, that's how they find people. They ask their friends. So
Yes.
I think referrals are the best way for experts to get their clients. And you've got to be out there so that people are, you're top of mind and people are actually able to refer you.
No, I love that. So if someone is a little shallow in that area, right? They're not, they know like what you just said, they're nodding their head vigorously, but they're like, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Any sort of practical tips for like how to start building your network, or where do you invest your business development when that is your goal?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you like the really shortest path. So you always start with your existing network, right? Because you've already got some know, like, and trust with them. It's really about you really have to start with making sure, am I clear about who I'm looking for and
Mm,
what my offer is? Am I
yeah.
making it really easy for people to refer me? Is it really easy for people to buy from me, which the lead product helps tremendously with? It's another benefit of it. And then outside of that, I actually recommend building something I call the 1KO. So it's the one killer outreach strategy,
Mm,
which is essentially a systematic way of gathering people on a consistent basis so that you are leveraging your time and creating and maintaining deep relationships, nurturing relationships with multiple people at once. And these can be all sorts of gatherings. They're incredibly effective. And what they do is they give you a way to be in a leadership position. They give you a reason to stay in contact with people. And every time you go out, because if you really have no network, the best thing you can do is like start going out and meeting people.
yep.
But when you meet someone that you like, or you're like, oh, this would be a great contact, it can be very awkward to think, well, what am I going to say next? Like, oh, let's hop on another call and like
Right.
talk more, right? That's so awkward. So instead, you have this 1KO. You always have something that's on your calendar. You can say, oh my gosh, I'm actually getting a group of great business owners together that I think you'd really benefit from meeting. Why don't you come to that? Even if they can't make it, this is a way to keep in touch because they'll go, oh, I can't make that, but I'd love to come to the next one. Okay, great. And now I have a reason to reach out to you again. So it's an incredibly powerful way to leverage your time to continually build this network and stay in front of people without having to build all these funnels. And yes,
Mhm.
there's a manual aspect to this, but a handful of really good referral partners can keep your whole business humming.
Yes, absolutely. Man, I love that. It's so simple and doable, and it's all built on really solid like law of reciprocity, like you're saying, like just have something to invite people to all the time. And even if they can't come, you've planted the seed of generosity, right? And they're looking for even subconsciously a way to help you back. And then if you've got that 1-2 punch of the presence and the generosity with the specificity of them being able to like, oh, Pia's the person for this or Dustin's the person for this, then when that their surface area, like intersects with someone
Yes,
looking for that opportunity, they're like, I know exactly who you need to talk to because you have that top of mind presence
exactly.
because you were giving to start. I love that. So one more question is going to sort of like loop us back to the beginning, and then
Yeah.
we'll of course talk about your book and how people can get their calculator and those good things. So a topic that actually comes up a lot in my world, with the 7-figure leap brand is like, do I want 7 figures? Do I want 8 figures? Do I want to build an empire? Or do I want like a $250,000 business that is always kind of a $250,000 business, right? And I think being very intentional about what size of business you want and sort of like staying small on purpose is actually the right answer for many, many people. And I think we get skewed or jaded by looking out, quote unquote, out there on social media and getting envious of people who have larger top line revenues with no recognition of what that is actually doing for their personal well being and their personal lifestyle. So, yeah, like what are your thoughts on this idea of scaling solo? Like the word scale sometimes can be taken to mean it's always up 10x, 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 right? But like
Totally.
scaling solo, I think in the way that you're using it does not mean that. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the mindset of being able to answer that question about like what do you really want and how we should be thinking about growth as a solopreneur or someone with a very small team.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking this because it's really the crux of like my mission with this book is
Yeah,
to give people permission to stay small on purpose.
I love
And,
it.
how did I end up with 2 employees 3 years into my business? I read E-Myth, which
Yeah,
told me, right, shamed me because it
yeah.
said, oh, you
Don't be
don't
a
have
technician. Yeah,
employees. Then,
yeah.
yeah, then you're just a technician, which I felt terrible about because I was all proud of myself for building this business. And then also, I was a part of, are you familiar with EO, the entrepreneur
Yes,
organization? So I
yes.
was in the accelerator program.
Okay.
And the whole accelerator program is about getting to 1 million. So I'm
Yep.
surrounded by people where that's the holy grail. Although, I had a mentor once who was running a multi-million dollar business and I was taking home more than he was.
Yeah.
So I was a little, wait a second, what's going on here? Like you're being put on a pedestal here, but I'm doing really well. Actually, I'm doing better than you right now
Yep.
financially. And so these are just little seeds that were in my head. So what I want this book to do is help people realize the only person who can define success for you is you. And it's important that we get that power back and say, yeah, what do I really want? What does it cost? And also, when you hit this 50-25-25 rule or more, so when like at one point, we were doing one $30,000 project a month and it took a week. So we were actually making all of our revenue in 1 week, in 25% of our time. Well, that gave us extra time and money to make decisions with. And we
Hmm.
decided to invest in starting a new business. So this is, not everybody wants to do that. And if you do, that's also great. I actually recommend this as the path. We always call our agency like our cash register, oh, we need some cash for this project or this new business, like do a brand up, pocket the money and now keep going with the things that we want. So I love this model when you're an expert because it's a way to generate a lot of money. Like once you get it kind of in the right place, profitability wise, it's a really great way to generate cash almost on demand. And then you can choose, am I just going to invest this in property? Maybe I want to invest in the stock market. Maybe I want to do a multiple. Maybe I want to create a passive income product, which takes a while to actually
Yep.
get profitable. You need a runway of time and money. So what I love most about it is that A, you're defining success, and B, you're allowed to evolve with that success, but
Hmm.
this will give you those opportunities and options.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's the power of the freedom flex time is it's
Yes.
flexible, right? And you can
Yeah.
have periods where you're like, this quarter we are grinding and we want to, whatever, upgrade our house or get a car or pay for a kid's tuition or something like that. And you have that flexible time to do that. But you also have the seasons where you want to chill, you need to take care of a parent, you have your own health thing to deal with, right? And so when you set up
Yes.
with 25% of margin sort of as the baseline, it gives you tons of flexibility for different seasons of life because we all go through different seasons of life. And I think the key thing you said there that really resonated with me, and I know resonates with everyone listening to this, is you get to choose and you have the quote unquote permission. I don't know who you needed it from, but you have it from Pia. So you have the permission to stay small if that is in alignment with your own goals, ambitions, personal values, faith walk, like whatever is informing your vision of what your business is and how the role it's supposed to play in your life. So I absolutely love the mission you're on. I love the mission behind the book. So yeah, as we wrap up, like tell us more about the book and how to get it and where this calculator fits in because I don't want to forget. You told me to remind you, so I'm doing
Yes.
that as
Yes.
well. So
Okay. I'll start with the calculator so I don't forget.
yeah,
But you can go to nobsmastery.com/price and you can just grab the calculator there. It's a very simple walk you through it in a quick video. And that'll start to get like, it's a great place to just see those numbers immediately. And then that'll give you a starting point at least. And then my book is out, scalesolobook.com. Go check it out. I decided that I wanted to tell all. I've been living this model for 12 years. I've been teaching it in different forms for 10 years, very intensively and deep for the last 5 years. I unpacked the intensives model and I'm now opening it up to teach the intensives model and the whole thing to all experts. And this book was really my opportunity to like put it all down on paper and like give it away. So if any of this is interesting to you, you
yeah.
will definitely get a lot out of my book. And I hope you love it. And if you do buy it, please write me a review.
Absolutely. That's the thing, right? It's one of the
That's
things
the
I
thing.
admire about Selena, who's our connection, is she's so
Mhm.
specific and like, here's my goal. I want Amazon reviews, and she does lots of things, towards that goal. So I love that
Yes.
you shared that. Yeah, and if there's any one point in this conversation, or I'm assuming probably multiple points where you're like, man, that really resonates with me. I want to go deeper. I want to like take action on that. Every question that I asked Pia today was from the book, right? So the book is absolutely the next best step for everyone. So the calculator, nobsmastery.com/price. We'll put that in the show notes. And then the big link here is scalesolobook.com. So you can go get a copy for yourself, leave her a glowing Amazon or Goodreads review. I will be doing the same. So, well, this is awesome, Pia. I really appreciate you. I'm looking forward to getting to know you better through our connections and having you be part of my referral network. But yeah, for today, I'm really grateful for the time I got to spend with you. You're a real gift to me. I'm very much in alignment with everything you're about and your mission here, and highly recommend people go grab the book. So scalesolobook.com, and hope to see you again soon, Pia. Appreciate you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for having me, Dustin. This was super fun.